Hey there folks, Rel here. This is your weekly update for June 9th, 2014. The first bit of community news is that the PlanetSide 2 alerts page now has a Chrome browser extension for it. And that's awesome because you don't need to check the site, you don't need to check Twitter, and whenever an alert pops up for your server, it's just there on your screen while browsing the internet. And what I especially appreciate is that you can set it to alert you 30 minutes before an alert finishes up, or you can turn off notifications altogether. It's very elegant, very useful, and is a great way to stay connected to the game while you're doing other things. So much props to the developer, and you can find the original site at ps2alerts.com. It has extremely detailed information, and that is linked in the description below, as well as the link to the Chrome browser extension. The second thing I'd like to talk about is that Hader is finally off to boot camp for the Air National Guard, so good luck to him there. He's a great pilot in PlanetSide 2 and a really cool person, but in a recent Reddit post, he left behind a consolidated list of his ESF guides. And I get a lot of comments asking for tips on how to fly ESF, and each time I have to respond and say that I'm not a skilled pilot, or at least I'm not skilled enough to feel qualified to speak on it. I can fly well enough when nobody is shooting at me, and I know how to do tricks like quick turns, reverse maneuvers, and mid-air repairs, but when it comes to dogfighting, I lose like 90% of the time. And I'm getting better, but until I feel competent, I won't make any videos giving you that sort of advice. That said, if you are interested in learning more about flying in ESF from someone who actually knows what they're talking about, then you can check out the Reddit thread and browse through the guides that he has laid out there. Speaking of flying, the Liberator and main battle tanks have some very heavy changes planned to them. And of course, most people have found at least one thing to complain about, but it's important to note that these changes are in the planning stages, as in they're not set in stone. So if you have some constructive feedback to offer, you really need to get to that thread and post it there. On top of the Liberator and main battle tank changes, which is looking pretty substantial, continent locking is also on the way. Now, outside of alerts, platoon leaders will finally have something to work toward, something with relative permanence, instead of the constant back and forth over the same continent. And this, to me, is the real starting point for creating depth in PlanetSide 2, and a lot of people are looking forward to the change. If I had to guess, just going out on a limb, I'd say that continent locking and the resource revamp are more looked forward to than Hassan by the vast majority of the veteran players. They're certainly going to have a larger impact on the game flow, and hopefully a large positive impact on the game's player base as well. The last bit of community news that I'd like to mention is that Matherson and Watterson are going to be merged. The date hasn't been announced yet, but that's still amazing because we're going to see a lot more players. Watterson basically plays on whichever continent the alert is currently on and then defaults to Indar between times, and the VS have also been consistently underpopped during prime time. And not only will VS be getting more players than the other two factions, but we're also going to be getting good players, which means less reliance on terrible farming outfits for the majority of our forces. What's also really interesting is that, provided everything works out correctly, there's going to be a server smash to determine what the server name is. So it should be fun no matter how you look at it. But that's it for community news. As far as the channel goes, on Tuesday, we had released another kill streak using the Engineer in some confined spaces, and tomorrow you're actually going to see another Engineer kill streak because, quite honestly, Engineer is my favorite and most played class, but I think you'll really enjoy it. On Thursday, we released part 2 of the Armchair Game Design series, where I just kind of prattle on about systems and games that I would like to one day create. On Saturday, there was a quick video offering up some useful tips for gathering and conserving implant energy, and you guys seem to like that, so hopefully you found it helpful. And finally, on Sunday, late at night, we put out a short version of the Baron G5 review. I have a longer one written up and the audio recorded, but it is really long, so I figured that it would be a good idea to just have a quick and dirty version just for those who want to cut to the chase and hear my general view on the weapon. So hopefully the full review will be out on Wednesday, but I guess we'll have to see. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on. Do remember though that the links to all of today's articles and such are in the description below, so feel free to check those out. That said, I'm going to leave you with some frantic gameplay using the Solstice Carbine. Thanks very much folks, we're all signing off.